Hey there, Power Players! I'm Stefan. Welcome back to Art of Nintendo Power. Today we're going to take a look at one of the most asked about items in the Art of Nintendo Power archive. These are the original photography props for the cover of Nintendo Power Volume 3. Yep, the original shoes that were modified and shot for the Track and Field 2 cover. The story of how I came across these is one of my absolute favorites because it's a prime example of right place, right time. If you've been following this channel for any length of time, you probably know that the other thing that I'm incredibly passionate about besides Nintendo Power Magazine are Nintendo gameplay counselors. Well, at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo in 2019, I was staffing a museum exhibit that I had put together about Nintendo gameplay counselors. Out of the blue, my friend Frank Cifaldi from the Video Game History Foundation, who was also working in the museum at the time, comes up to me and says that he was approached by a vendor who had some Howard and Nestor production art, and he wanted to know if I would take a look. Now don't worry, all of that production art will be covered in a later video. So I sit down with the guy and we start flipping through this book, and it's page after page of Howard and Nestor faxes, essentially. You see, in the 80s, most people weren't working digitally yet, so the primary means when you were giving or taking notes on comic projects was to fax pages back and forth. So here's the thing about collecting anything. One of the most important phrases for you to remember when dealing with anyone is, "What else you got?" So after we were done looking at the production art, I asked him, "What else you got?" And he had said, "Well, back home, I have these shoes." As you can imagine, my heart just about leapt out of my chest. By the end of the day, we had struck a deal, and about 2 weeks later, these arrived at my home. He told me a little bit about how he came about these shoes, and while I'm not going to tell that story because it's his story, not mine, I was able to corroborate his story and reach out to the original source for these shoes. Suffice to say, I was able to confirm that they are authentic. So let's talk a little bit about what you are physically looking at here. Like most of the physical covers for Nintendo Power, these shoes were bought at retail and then modified. These shoes started their lives as Converse ERX 400s, which was a popular basketball shoe at the time. Much of the detailing on these shoes are hand painted, and then they have custom sticker work applied all over them. You don't have to look too hard to see that these shoes are a little bit worse for wear. Most of the sticker work is peeling off, and 2 of the rocket jets on the back are missing. The hand applied paint is also flaking off in many areas. I'm often asked if I've ever tried them on, and the answer is no. These shoes are old enough that I wouldn't trust putting them on my feet. I'd be too afraid that the soles would fall apart. Speaking of the soles, you can also see that unfortunately, while hand painted, the soles of the shoes don't glow like they do on the cover. Most of the Converse branding originally was covered by stickers, but you can see some of it now that a lot of the stickers are peeling off. All of the stickers are hand cut, and the remaining rockets appear to be some sort of molded polyurethane foam with little foam pads cut and placed inside. Sometimes I talk about pieces that shouldn't exist. This is definitely one of them. The odds of these shoes surviving as long as they have and in reasonably good condition is just absolutely astronomical. I have had a few people ask me how I know they're not faked. Now, aside from the fact that, again, I was able to track down the original owners and verify their authenticity that way, who would fake these, number one? But 2, why would you fake them in such poor condition? So yeah, these are definitely authentic, and again, I can't really divulge the original owner without running into my own personal privacy policy, but they are absolutely authentic. Having said that, if you really wanted a pair, I guess you could buy a pair of ERX 400s and try to modify them yourself. For some reason. I know some of you are eager to see some of the other physical props that I have from Nintendo Power covers, and I will get to that in future videos. Well, that's gonna about do it for this episode of Art of Nintendo Power. If you have any questions, absolutely leave them in the comments below. I love to hear from you. And while you're there, why don't you let me know which of the physical Nintendo Power covers are your favorites? I will leave you with some up-close camera work of these beautiful shoes, and I will see you next time on Art of Nintendo Power.